Hey, how you doing? My name is Ryan, and today I'm going to show you how to collect the best knockoff and off-brand minifigures from safe and reliable sellers. So a few weeks ago, I posted on my community page what questions you guys have about finding and collecting knockoffs, and I aim to answer as many as I can in this video, so consider this your ultimate guide to knockoff and off-brand minifigures. Now, let's start with some semantics. So 1,000-foot view, we have unofficial minifigures. That's any plastic brick figure that looks like a minifigure but isn't made by Lego. Under that, we have two subcategories, knockoffs and customs. Knockoffs are attempting to copy or mimic or parrot an official Lego design, whereas customs may or may not take inspiration from an official Lego design. So for example, this Spider-Man figure is a knockoff as it's copying an official Spider-Man figure, whereas this one is not, as there's no official Lego counterpart or even precedent. Now, I review both types of figures on this channel, but I feel like I need to make the distinction as to which figure is which nowadays, as most creators make both knockoffs and customs. There are varying price points in each category, so you could find a knockoff that costs upwards of $30 or a wholly original figure that costs only 98 cents. For me, it's the intention of the designer that matters most, so before I really dive into the world of knockoffs, let me just put out this disclaimer. Bear in mind, these are figures that are copying official Lego designs and taking the work of official Lego designers. If you like what you see in these figures, be sure to support Lego, support their designers, support the hard work they put into each minifigure that these knockoffs then copy and sell for dirt cheap. Alright? Okay, with that disclaimer out of the way, let's dive into the world of knockoffs. Now, when you start learning about any subject, your first instinct is to go to the Wikipedia page for that topic. And for knockoff minifigures, that site is heroblocks.com. Here you can find listings for almost every off-brand figure, both knockoff and custom. You can filter by character, theme, or even brand to find the exact item number of these kind of hard-to-find figures. That information is really handy to help you find the custom images on Google of the knockoff figures, because sometimes the marketing images look way better than the real deal. That's a common complaint many collectors have. Sometimes these companies will alter or fake their figure mock-ups for the listing, but the final product looks far less in quality. So having a figure's serial number can really come in handy in helping you find the best quality figures. So on that topic, which brand sells the best knockoffs and which one should you totally avoid? Well, I think I have the answer to that question, but before I get to it, let's just run down all the most common knockoff figure companies. One of the top dogs used to be Shenwan, but they have become much harder to come by on traditional websites. Still, I want to mention the company here because they do make really good figures. If you find one, try to get it. Next is XINH, probably the most prolific of the knockoff creators, but that doesn't mean their figures are always the best. Often the print is lower quality, even if some of the design work is perfect. When a new set comes out or a new figure comes out in the market, you can almost guarantee that there will be an XINH knockoff not too far behind. D-Cool has some of the best knockoffs in terms of quality and design. However, even on their own website, there aren't a ton of options. They tend to sell knockoff sets, not just figures, and I don't see many new minifigures being created. What they do sell is a touch more expensive than the rest of the brands on this list, but the quality is noticeable. Next is Koryut, with amazingly clean designs and print work, plus a surprisingly large catalog of figures. However, only more recently have they become as good as they are. If Koryut can keep it up, they might be a top contender for best knockoffs. How about Kopf, or KOPF? These figures have admirable design work on the torsos, but the faces are the brand's kryptonite. Proportions are almost always off, and the face lines are incredibly thick. Now, they're getting a bit better if their Thor Love and Thunder figures are any indication, but Kopf still has a way to go in creating consistently good knockoff minifigures. But how about WM Blocks? The key word for this brand is bulky. They'll either have the correct print, but add an extra armor layer like these Star Wars figures, or the proportions of the print will be way off, causing the character to look puffed out and bulky. Now, I'll admit, I don't have a ton of experience with this brand, but what I do have experience with, it's all bulky, so maybe stay away from this one until they can solve that problem. And last, Pogo, a brand that has some good variety with Star Wars figures, clones, and other Lego themes like ideas, but sometimes they add their own style to knockoffs to push the figure into custom territory. The plastic quality is low, but slowly improving. If you can find a figure without the Pogo touch of extra style, the knockoffs are pretty good. But what about best in show? Well, here's my breakdown. For the best Marvel knockoffs, I recommend XINH. Prolific, consistent, and pretty darn good overall. Best Star Wars knockoffs? That goes to Koryut, who recently took the lead from XINH with their latest Kenobi figures and Star Wars figures. And the best DC knockoffs? I'm gonna go with D-Cool. While there aren't a ton to pick from, these guys have been consistently perfect with their knockoff minifigures. Now, regardless of whatever brand you pick, it's almost like gambling. You're spending about $1 on a figure that could either be really, really good or absolutely terrible. Either way, the figure will often be stiffer than Lego due to the poor plastic quality, so I really only recommend knockoffs for display and not play. Now that you know what brands to get for knockoffs, the second most common question I receive is, where the heck do I find these figures, and what sites are safe for me to buy from? Now, I can only speak to my experience buying on various sites, but so far, I've purchased successfully from Amazon, Etsy, AliExpress, BrickPandaToys.com, and WMMocBricks.cn. But to make this video a bit more extensive and exhaustive, let me go through the purchasing process for each website that I've personally bought from. So first, Amazon. Real simple, it's Amazon. But I will say, I've had the most amount of trouble with buying from Amazon because sometimes I'll make a purchase and then the seller will just disappear. So even though there is technically 2-day Prime shipping, if the seller no longer exists, your stuff might not get to you in 2 days. Now, the refund process has been really easy, so again, having the backing of a big corporation for these kind of more risky purchases is nice, but sometimes you need to go to some of the lesser known sites for a more reliable purchase. As for how to find these figures on Amazon, I recommend search terms like building block figure, and action minifigure because the search term Lego will do you no good here. The next site is Etsy, which is really easy to search on and use. In fact, you could even use the search term Lego and come across a slew of knockoff minifigures. So be mindful of that because you need to look at the price sometimes to determine which listings are for real minifigures and which ones are for knockoffs. However, I'll also note that with Amazon and Etsy, you'll often not be able to see which brand is making the knockoff, so you need to do your research on heroblocks.com to compare the listing images to the actual knockoff figure that you're trying to buy. But now, how about one of my favorite sites to buy knockoff figures from, AliExpress.com. On this site, if you search for Lego, you'll only come across knockoff minifigures or knockoff sets for that matter. Sometimes you'll be able to see what brand of knockoff you're buying, sometimes not so much, but one of the most common complaints I get from AliExpress is that the listings don't always show the full figure. Now, even though the image may be cropped or you'll only get a torso or only get a head, don't worry, you're still buying the whole figure. Just the listing doesn't want to reveal the entire image, which is a little bit sketchy, but if you do your research on heroblocks.com again, you'll be able to see what the full figure actually looks like. You'll notice on AliExpress that all the prices are really low, 80 cents, 70 cents. However, be mindful of the shipping as you're paying shipping on each figure you buy. It's not a bulk for one order. So on AliExpress, more so than on any other site, you need to budget for shipping when buying your knockoffs. Also, one thing of note with AliExpress is the shipping time. It can take upwards of 2 months to receive your figure. Now, I have never had an order that has been marked as delivered and I've never received the product. Every time I get the package, it just takes a very long time, so be patient and don't freak out. Now, if you're looking for a site that more so specializes in knockoffs, might I recommend WMMocBricks.cn. Here you can not only search by new arrivals, but also minifigure categories, and each listing shows the exact knockoff brand you're buying, which is really helpful. This site does have 2 caveats though. One is that you need to create an account to actually make an order, which is really easy, just email address and password, totally fine. The other caveat is how you actually pay for the figures. It's a little tricky, but here's how it works. What you do is you make an order on their site and you hit complete order without actually paying. You select pay through AliExpress. Then they will send you a link to their AliExpress store. Then on that listing, you will put in your order number and the cost of your original order on their site. Basically what this means is that they don't want to have to process the payment on their side, so they're using AliExpress's payment system, which is probably safer than whatever they could use or come up with. So while it is kind of like jumping through hoops, you're jumping through hoops for the purpose of safety and reassurance. So if you're okay with that, again, Really reliable site, never had an order go wrong, and once you get used to the process of using this kind of third-party ordering system, it's really easy to make orders. But the last site that I often use the most is by far the easiest and my favorite. It's brickpandatoys.com. Here the products are actually broken down in two different categories, either by brand or by theme, which is just super helpful. I can look specifically at XINH minifigures, or specifically at Star Wars figures, or specifically at Pogo minifigures. The only caveat here is, again, you have to make an account, but you can also use your Google email address for this purpose. Makes it pretty secure to order from. And the ordering is actually done through their site, which again, just makes life easier. Brickpandatoys.com accepts both Visa and MasterCard, and the shipping time frame is 7 to 35 days. It tends to lean on that later side, but longer time period. I often wait about a month and a half for these figures, but they always arrive, and I'm always happy with the shipping quality. If I had to rank these sites from best to worst for buying knockoffs, it'd probably go brickpandatoys.com, AliExpress, Etsy, WMMocBricks.cn, and Amazon in dead last. Now, there are other sites to buy knockoff figures like Lego Brick or BigKingBricks.com. However, most of these are higher price points, and as of late, they've mostly been selling more customs than knockoffs, which is a pretty good thing if you're spending top dollar for these figures. And on that topic, let's talk about the other side of off-brand figures, the customs. And while many of these low-cost knockoff brands also make customs, my top 3 are as followed. At number 1 is XINH, an incredibly prolific brand with a wide range of custom figures. Quality is around a 7 out of 10 and has been there for a couple of years, so the brand is consistent. Now recently, some figures have crossed into that 8 to 9 out of 10 territory, but those are the exceptions to the norm. Next up is Koryut, which has less customs to choose from, but darn do they look great. All these incredible No Way Home figures, Koryut. Those Multiverse of Madness figures, Koryut. The best Thor Love and Thunder figures, Koryut as well. If they can build up a larger catalog of custom figures without compromising quality, Koryut will easily take the top spot. And up third is WM, which, if I'm being honest, is a good ways below the quality of the first two, but it has some nice hits in its catalog. Agatha, Moon Knight, Beta Ray Bill are all great customs. You do have to sift through some below average figures to find these gems, but some great customs do exist under the WM brand. And if you're able to spend more than $1 on a custom figure, there are dozens of amazing custom figure sites. Just to name a few, LegoBrick.com, Big Kid Bricks, Minifigs.me, Firestar Toys, and Phoenix Customs. These are sites that I've personally used to great success. The figures often cost around $25 to $30, but they are worth every penny. Great plastic quality, sometimes even using official Lego parts. Incredible design, and impeccable printing. If the $1 brands are like gambling, these higher cost sites are like going to the restaurant inside the casino. It's always high class, even if it's a little bit pricey, but you get the quality you pay for. And one last question I get a lot is, how do I know when these figures come out? Now, some brands like XINH, Koryut, and Firestar Toys have Instagram pages where they'll announce new releases. You can also check sites like HeroBlocks.com or DownTheBlocks.com for news on the latest off-brand releases. Down the Blocks also has a subreddit if you prefer to use that. Otherwise, knockoff and custom figures tend to trail the official release or the inspiration for the figure by about 2 to 3 months. So if a film came out in January, then expect the knockoff to come out in like March or April. And there you have it, the ultimate guide to collecting and buying knockoffs and custom minifigures. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you have any questions about buying or collecting knockoff minifigures, leave them in the comment section down below and I'll do my best to answer them in my next knockoff minifigure review. And as always, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.